Not every rapper starts with a record deal or a million followers. Some start with a cracked mic in a bedroom closet, uploading tracks at 2 in the morning, hoping somebody, anybody, clicks play. The distance between that moment and standing on a festival stage worth millions is 8 distinct levels, each with its own rules, money, and heartbreak. Let's start at the very bottom, SoundCloud or local underground rapper. Starting out as a SoundCloud or local underground rapper is basically the rap world's version of the Wild West. Endless opportunity, zero guarantees, and a grind that eats up everything except your sleep. Artists drop music themselves on platforms like SoundCloud, where millions of tracks upload every day, hoping to get even a handful of plays amid total noise. SoundCloud boasts around 140 million registered users, but for most rappers, that means swimming in an ocean where disappearing into obscurity is just as likely as a breakout hit. These rappers hustle hard at the grassroots level, hitting local open mics, battling rivals in basement shows, and performing in whatever dingy clubs or house parties they can book. The pay, typically between $50 and $300 per show, when luck's on their side, and that money isn't pure profit. Studio time, travel costs, beats, and promotion all come out of their own pockets, funded by day jobs in retail, food service, or gig work. The music career label here often feels more like a part-time job where long hours chasing streams barely cover expenses. Monthly listeners on streaming platforms usually hover in the hundreds or low thousands, tied to tight-knit local or online communities rather than broad audiences. Songs might rack up just a few hundred plays over months, with social media followings stuck in small circles. It's a landscape that rewards creativity and experimentation, but punishes visibility. The SoundCloud rap era from 2015 to 2019 perfectly illustrates this. An explosion of lo-fi, emo-inflected styles birthed some genuinely new sounds, but also hundreds of unheard artists struggling to break through the clutter. The cultural impact at this level is local but critical. This is where innovations spark, where the next wave of flows, slang, and aesthetics start in basements and bedroom studios before moving up the ladder. But the trade-off is brutal. Relentless effort with next to no financial reward, and attrition is sky high. Tons of hopefuls burn out, leaving abandoned SoundCloud pages and quiet Instagram accounts behind them. But if you think that's a tough spot, wait until you hear what happens when someone hits the internet's viral jackpot. Internet viral sensation. One day you have 200 monthly listeners, most of whom are your mom using different devices. The next day you have 4 million. That's the internet viral sensation tier, and it's exactly as unstable as it sounds. This level is defined by one thing. The algorithm decided you exist. Maybe your hook got picked up by TikTok creators. Maybe a meme format adopted your beat. Maybe you just said something so absurd over an 808 that the internet collectively lost its mind for 72 hours. However it happens, the result is the same. Your streams spike into the millions overnight, your phone starts ringing from numbers you don't recognize, and suddenly everyone has an opinion about you. Lil Nas X's Old Town Road is the textbook case. A country trap song made on a cheap beat that exploded through TikTok memes, broke streaming records with over 143 million streams in a single week, and held the #1 spot longer than any song in Billboard history. Designer's Panda followed a similar trajectory, went viral, got co-signed, ended up 5x platinum. Not bad for a song most people initially thought was a future track. But here's the thing, for every Old Town Road, there are hundreds of viral moments that evaporate within a month. The streams spike, the label calls come in, maybe you sign something in a rush because someone's waving a check in your face, and then the second song drops and nobody cares. You're yesterday's meme. The financial reality is wildly inconsistent. A multi-platinum viral hit can generate millions, but many viral artists lack the touring infrastructure to capitalize on the moment. You can't book an arena tour off one song when you've never performed live for more than 50 people. And the deals being offered in those chaotic first weeks are often predatory because labels know you're desperate to lock in the momentum before it disappears. The lifestyle shift is brutal in its speed. You go from complete obscurity to intense public pressure for a follow-up, chaotic scheduling, and everyone around you suddenly having opinions about your brand. Because going viral is not a career. It's a lightning strike. What you build after determines whether you become a real artist or a trivia question. But for the rappers who do figure it out, who turn that initial spike into genuine infrastructure, they graduate into something far more sustainable. The solid, mid-tier, independent rapper. This is the level nobody makes documentaries about, but it's arguably the most impressive tier on this entire list. Because these are the rappers who figured out how to make a real living, keep their masters, and answer to nobody. Which sounds simple until you realize how brutally difficult it actually is. Here's the thing. The music industry is designed to funnel artists toward labels. The entire infrastructure structure, from playlist pitching to radio promotion to sync licensing, favors artists with institutional backing. So when someone builds a 6 or 7 figure annual income without any of that, that's not luck. That's a small business owner who also happens to rap. Tech N9Ne is the textbook example. Through Strange Music, the man was doing close to 200 shows a year during his peak touring periods. 200. That's not a tour, that's a lifestyle. He turned himself into a live performance machine, hitting mid-sized venues with the consistency of a postal worker, and his fan base rewarded him with merch sales, ticket purchases, and a loyalty most major label artists would kill for. Then you've got Russ, distributing through TuneCore since 2011. Over a decade of independent releases, slowly stacking a massive catalog, building an international audience one track at a time. No label meetings, no A&R notes, no recoupment hanging over his head like a financial guillotine, just output, ownership, and patience. Chance the Rapper proved you could headline festivals, win Grammys, and become one of the most recognized names in hip-hop without ever selling a traditional album. Brand deals, touring, and an audience that genuinely believed in the mission. Financially, these artists sit anywhere from low 6 figures to low 7 figures annually. Some have gold or platinum certifications tucked away. But the real flex isn't a plaque on the wall. It's owning every single master recording you've ever made. The lifestyle is entrepreneurial to its core. Constant travel, managing budgets, negotiating booking fees, handling marketing. There's no A&R sending notes, but there's also no safety net. A bad tour routing decision or a poorly timed release can hurt in ways that a label-backed artist never has to think about. But for artists at this level, that trade-off is worth it every single time. Full creative control, direct fan relationships, and the knowledge that every dollar earned is actually theirs. But if you think independence sounds like freedom, wait until you hear what happens when you sign on the dotted line with a major label, signed artist. Here's where everything changes, and not always for the better. Getting signed to a major label is the moment most rappers dream about. The resources are real. You suddenly have access to global marketing teams, radio pluggers, A-list producers, and recording budgets that would make your independent self weep. But here's the thing, every single dollar they spend on you is coming back out of your pocket. Let me explain. A major label deal is structured around what's called a fully recoupable recording fund. The advance, the studio time, the mixing, the music videos, all of it gets tallied up and subtracted from your future royalties before you see another cent. Recording budgets for a single album can run between $500,000 and $800,000, all recoupable, every penny, and your royalty rate, typically somewhere between 10 and 25%, depending on your leverage and how good your lawyer is. So even if your album performs reasonably well, you might still be in the red because the label hasn't recouped yet. You're essentially working off a debt that was marketed to you as an investment, which is, not ideal. Now, some artists at this level absolutely thrive. They hit gold and platinum certifications, build massive listener counts, and leverage the label machine into genuine mainstream momentum through coordinated playlist placements, radio campaigns, and promotional pushes that independents simply can't replicate at scale. But here's where it gets complicated. For every rapper who breaks through on a major, there's another one sitting on a shelf somewhere, contractually unable to release music because the label lost interest but won't let them go. They can't put out new songs. They can't sign elsewhere. They just exist in limbo, watching their momentum evaporate while some executive decides whether they're worth another push. The artistic freedom question is real too. There's now a boardroom full of executives who need you to deliver hits. And if your creative direction doesn't align with what they think will perform on streaming playlists, you're going to have some uncomfortable conversations. The freedom you had as an independent, that's now a negotiation, not a given. So the major label tier is fundamentally a trade-off. Institutional firepower in exchange for control. A loan dressed up as a partnership. For some, it's the launchpad to everything that comes next. For others, it's a trap with nice furniture. But if you think navigating label politics is intense, wait until you see what happens when the hits actually start landing consistently. Mainstream hitmaker. There's a difference between having a hit and being a hitmaker. One is luck, the other is a pattern. And the pattern is what separates this tier from everything below it. A mainstream hitmaker doesn't need to explain who they are at a party. Their songs are already playing at that party. These artists have moved past the, oh yeah, I think I've heard of them, phase into full cultural saturation. Radio rotation, editorial playlists, RIAA plaques stacking up like parking tickets. We're talking multiple gold and platinum certifications within a compressed window, not spread across a decade of grinding. Take Ice Spice. She held the most titles on the RIAA's 2023 breakout class, with certified singles landing in rapid succession. That's not one song catching fire on TikTok and then silence for 8 months. That's sustained momentum, which is honestly harder than the initial breakout. Anyone can go viral once. Doing it repeatedly while the entire internet is waiting for you to fall off, different skill set entirely. Metrics at this level look healthy in a way that would make lower tier artists physically ill. Monthly listeners sit comfortably in the tens of millions. Individual tracks rack rack up hundreds of millions of streams. And these aren't just passive playlist listeners. A significant chunk of this audience is actively seeking the music out, sharing it, building content around it. The name itself carries weight. Financially, we're looking at high six figures to low seven figures annually when you stack streams, sync placements, touring, and merchandise. Booking fees climb into the low six figures for festival slots. It's not private jet money yet, but it's comfortably I never have to think about rent again money, which, is a nice place to be. But the real currency at this tier isn't dollars, it's influence. Mainstream hitmakers shape how people talk, what they wear, what sounds they expect from a rap song in any given year. Their slang enters the lexicon. Their fashion choices show up in fast retail within weeks. They've crossed from music artist into cultural presence, which is a line that's invisible until you've already crossed it. The lifestyle, though, it's a treadmill disguised as a throne. The pressure to follow up a hit with another hit is relentless because labels, managers, and audiences all have short memories. You're only as relevant as your last quarter. Miss a cycle and someone younger, hungrier, and cheaper is already warming up in the studio next door. Still, if you can sustain this level for more than 2 or 3 cycles without burning out or falling off, that's when promoters start having a very different conversation with your booking agent, one that involves much bigger rooms, arena, and festival headliner. This is where rap stops being a music career and starts being a logistics operation. We're talking about artists who don't just perform at festivals. They are the festival. The entire marketing campaign, the ticket sales, the hotel bookings for an entire city, all of it hinges on whether their name is on that poster, and the numbers at this level are genuinely stupid. Drake's It's All a Blur tour grossed over $250 million. Over 900,000 tickets sold across North America and Europe. Kendrick Lamar and SZA's Grand National Stadium tour sold over 1.3 million tickets in its initial on sale alone. These aren't music tours, these are small economies. You could fund a space program with this money. Instead, it's going toward a man rapping about his feelings over an 808, which is, a reasonable use of resources. Booking fees at this level start at 6 figures per show and regularly push past 7. And here's the thing, festivals now need these artists more than these artists need festivals. A headliner level rapper can sell out arenas on their own. Coachella needs their name on a flyer to justify charging people 4 figures to stand in a desert. That leverage means these artists negotiate everything from production budgets to billing placement to how many trailers their team gets backstage. Spotify monthly listeners sit comfortably in the tens of millions. Multiple multi-platinum singles. Albums that went platinum before the tour even started. If they're not nominated for awards, that's the story. But here's where it gets complicated. The lifestyle looks glamorous, and parts of it genuinely are. Private jets, massive entourages, handling every detail, cool. But these artists are also performing at an elite physical level almost every night, making decisions that affect the livelihoods of hundreds of people on their payroll. Stage designers, lighting crews, security teams, all of them eat because this one person keeps delivering a 2-hour set to 20,000 people. That's not a concert. That's a responsibility shaped like a concert. Brand extensions hit different at this tier too. Clothing lines, beverage deals, tech partnerships. These aren't vanity projects. They're genuine business verticals generating revenue that could sustain the artist even if they never released another song. The cultural footprint expands beyond music in ways that make rapper feel like an undersell. Community perception is interesting here. There's always a subset of fans mourning the hungry, raw version from 3 albums ago. They used to rap in small venues and now it's all pyrotechnics. Fair enough. But those pyrotechnics cost more than most people's houses, so someone's clearly enjoying them. But if you think selling out arenas and headlining festivals puts you at the top of rap, you haven't seen what happens when an artist transcends the genre entirely. Elite megastar. There are levels to this, and then there's whatever this is. The elite megastar tier isn't a level of rapper anymore. It's a small country with a population of 1, a GDP measured in billions, and a foreign policy that consists entirely of Instagram posts. We're talking about a group so small you could fit them in a single VIP section. These are rappers who have transcended music entirely and become entertainment conglomerates that happen to also release albums sometimes. Drake is the archetype here, and his numbers are genuinely stupid. Over 100 billion Spotify streams, an estimated $400 million in Spotify earnings alone, not total career earnings, just Spotify. One platform. That's more than most countries' annual tourism revenue, and he earned it by being sad about text messages. Tours at this level aren't tours, they're economic events. Drake's It's All a Blur run grossed over $320 million. Booking fees exceed $1 million per show, which means a single night of work generates more income than most people will see in 20 lifetimes. And that's before merch, sponsorships, the whiskey brand, the sports betting partnerships, and whatever other revenue streams are quietly humming in the background. Social media followings at this tier sit in the hundreds of millions, not fans. Hundreds of millions of individual human beings who have opted in to seeing what you had for breakfast. Every post moves markets, every feature request from another artist is essentially a business proposal. But here's where it gets complicated. These artists have RIAA certifications spanning multiple decades and multiple eras of music consumption. They've gone platinum on physical CDs, on downloads, and on streams. They've outlasted formats. They've survived the death of the album, the death of the single, and somehow the death of their own relevance 3 separate times, according to Twitter. The cultural footprint is quasi-mythic. Debates about whether they're the greatest rapper alive happen on news networks, not just Reddit threads. And the cost is genuinely bizarre. Private international travel, teams of dozens managing every aspect of daily existence, and public scrutiny that would break most people within a week. Every lyric gets dissected. Every relationship becomes tabloid content. You're not a person anymore. You're a publicly traded emotional commodity. When your booking fee is over $1 million, your social circle narrows to other people whose booking fee is over $1 million, which is, not a lot of people. The pressure to maintain relevance while running a business empire, while being a cultural symbol, while presumably needing to sleep sometimes, is genuinely unsustainable. And yet they sustain it because the alternative is becoming yesterday's news. And at this altitude, there's nowhere to fall but down. But if you think raw commercial dominance is the ceiling, there's actually one more tier, one that money can't buy and metrics can't measure: culture icon. Every other tier on this list is about what a rapper does while they're active. This one is about what happens when the music stops, or when the artist dies and the world still can't let go. Culture icons aren't defined by chart positions or touring grosses. They're defined by the fact that teenagers who weren't born when they were alive are still getting their lyrics tattooed on their bodies. Tupac Shakur was murdered in 1996. In 2017, more than 2 decades later, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's not nostalgia, that's permanence. Here's the thing about this tier: it's not the next step after elite megastar. It's a completely different axis. Some megastars will never reach it. They'll sell hundreds of millions of records, headline stadiums, build empires, and then fade from collective memory within a generation. Meanwhile, someone with a shorter discography and a more turbulent life becomes more relevant with every passing year. The criteria isn't success, it's resonance. The markers are everywhere once you know what to look for. University courses built around their lyrics, murals in cities they never visited, their words showing up in political speeches, protest signs, and graduation caps. That's not commercial impact, that's cultural DNA. For living icons, the focus moves from creating new hits to protecting and expanding legacy. Philanthropy, mentorship, executive roles, funding educational programs. They become institutions unto themselves, which is, not a normal thing for a person to be. Their opinions carry weight far beyond music. When they speak, industries listen, and younger artists recalibrate. For deceased icons, things get more complicated. Estates manage intellectual property, which sounds clinical because it is. Posthumous album releases, hologram tours, brand deals signed by people who never knew the artist personally. Is releasing unfinished demos honoring the legacy, or strip mining it? The answer depends on who you ask and how much money is involved. I don't know what to tell you. What makes this tier so rare is that you can't engineer it. Every level below this one has a playbook. Get more streams, sign a better deal, book bigger venues, but nobody has ever reverse engineered icon status. It's granted by time, by collective memory, by the slow accumulation of meaning that attaches to certain voices. Some gain it posthumously because death freezes them at their most mythic. Others earn it by surviving long enough to see their early work validated by history. The debates surrounding culture icons aren't about sales versus artistry. They're about what rap means as a force in human history, what it says about race, class, resistance, and identity, whether certain artists were prophets or products. These conversations don't have endpoints. They regenerate with every new generation that discovers the music, and that's the final distinction. At every other level, you're competing with your contemporaries. At the culture icon level, you're competing with time itself and winning. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.